and welcome to Gamers Table, a podcast discussion of tabletop role-playing games, war games, movies, books, and various other game-related topics. Be warned, this show contains some explicit material that may not be suitable for all audiences.
Hello and welcome to Gamers Table. My name is Eric.
This is Mike.
This is Dan.
This is Mark.
This is Jason.
This is Aaron.
And I'm Sean.
This episode we're going to talk about...
That was lame.
I think Jason,
I kind of expected that, but I was just when we finally get it, I was like, oh, that's stupid.
I think Jason really wants the final word. It's like sticking in his craw.
Well, I was the last guy for a while.
Yeah?
Tough.
So,
Mr. Star of the show.
that's right, star of the show, Jason is here. This episode we're going to talk about a subject that kind of gets under everybody's craw a little bit whenever...
What's your craw?
Your craw.
Where's that at?
Stuck in your craw? It's your back of your throat, I believe.
Okay. Go ahead. I was just wondering.
I never really knew what that meant either.
Well, I'm an old farm boy, so...
Old farm boys would know. So anyway...
Until I was like 2, and then I was off the farm.
That doesn't count.
That doesn't really make you a farm boy.
I don't know. We still call Mike German.
That's true.
That's true.
The same thing.
But he looks German.
That's right.
So anyway, we're going to talk about player character plots and betrayals. It's something that happens every once in a while, especially when you've been playing together as long as we have.
Yes.
You know, every once in a while you get somebody who decides that they're going to go against the grain and come up with their own plots and things like that. Now, we did kind of touch on this a little bit when we talked about player versus player intrigue and things like that, too. But we're going to kind of dig a little bit deeper into the subject.
Especially now that Woodside's here.
That's right. Aaron's here.
Because he's responsible for most of it.
Aaron's here.
I'm typecast.
He's typecast. He's going to defend his honor.
Well, see, it wasn't just Bolton, Woodside, because you also got started up with Temerity when she was going back and forth with Boz Shalhoun, which inspired my character to backstab all of you, steal Baba Yaga's hut, and f*** off. So we'll get into that later, too.
It sounds like we just got into it.
Ding, ding.
I don't remember any of that.
I smell where this episode's going.
Past grievances.
It's not a bad thing to have personal ambitions for your character and things like that. You know, but some people think it's a bad thing when those ambitions are not going in the same direction as the rest of the party. Some people will beg the difference and say, you know, hey, I'm playing my character. This is the way my character would be. But, I mean, sometimes it's just, do you really need to do things like this? Or is it something that, you know, does it spice up the game?
It definitely spices up the game. I think in the short term, people resent it, but in the long term, it's for the better because we still talk about these years-old plots and grudges, and it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing that bothers me the most about it is I'm not good at doing that.
You have a tendency to not want to do those things, and you know it's not for the best of the group. It's for personal enjoyment,
right?
At that time, like Mike said, though, you know it does become some of the better stories you have when you have things like this.
Sometimes you can't force it either. Sometimes it just happens.
Yeah, but if you're going to pull it off, you've got to ingratiate yourself to the group.
To be able to turn.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it was at the beginning of Shadowrun before the infamous Bolton Dragon incident.
Which I still don't think is my fault.
Bolton and Fuzz were friends.
So sometimes it's, you know, I think it's part of the story, though. In Aaron's case, he was being manipulated. He was being his strings were being pulled by Loafweir at the time.
And this is why I think it's not my fault, because
it's totally your
before
fault.
Eric even ran the campaign, he came in and said, and this is the death of Bolton.
Oh, the adventure
Yes.
itself? Because I knew exactly where it was going to go.
Dude, you should feel honored. Seriously, that is a big deal.
I love that character.
To have an adventure specifically named after your character, this is the death of Bolton.
It was a written adventure.
It was a published adventure.
Oh, okay.
It's just I read it and I knew exactly how it was going to end.
I gotcha. I thought you wrote something just for Aaron.
No.
That would make it even more epic if it was a published adventure to take out. Now that's saying something.
Yeah. Dear Fossa.
Actually, Steve Kinson wrote that adventure.
Yeah, really?
Yeah. So it's just, you know, it's one of those things that in order to do something like that, in order to betray an entire campaign or, you know, to do something like that, the first and foremost, you have to have played a long time with those characters to develop that rapport that you're betraying. Because otherwise,
It doesn't mean anything.
Right. If Jason, when you go to execute your evil character plan,
Yes.
if we're playing D&D, it's not going to help if you start out playing a priest effect store.
Well, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, it's not going to work. You have to start
Or
out.
maybe-
well,
He
if your
is
intention
now.
is to betray the group. Now, if your intention is just to play an evil guy and then we have to deal with you,
Then
that's
go
a
ahead,
different story.
play whatever.
That would be dealing with your plots and not your betrayal.
I'd say there's probably not going to be, unless we're starting out at 10th level, you probably don't have anything to worry about for a while.
Probably not.
Hey, there's a good
I mean,
reason to start out at 10th level.
Most of my evil will involve kidnapping, village girls, and they disappear. Or
Tricks
maybe,
me off and
maybe
kidnapped.
not. I don't know.
It's
I
okay.
decided to.
Or village boys.
Or village boys, sure.
I got a question about all of this. Is it born out of boredom more often than not?
I think it's ego.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree that it's
There you go.
it would probably
in
be
Woodside's case in particular.
No, I was. And
In my case, I was literally doing what the character would do.
I know.
He was very ambitious, and all he was doing was sucking up to his boss.
Well, then you don't think ego's involved in that?
Well, yes. But I didn't know it was going to get the whole group killed.
well. That's just that was just a happy coincidence.
Well, and I think, and when I say ego, I'm specifically referring to Eric playing Boss Shaloon in our epic level campaign. And I don't think that, it's not that I think that Eric was, I don't want to say it was like the super ego and he was trying to see how he could manipulate everybody. I think it had more to do with the fact that Eric knew that he personally was well liked by everybody sitting at the table. And he knew that he could get away. I mean, we knew he was playing a downright dastardly,
lich.
exactly, an evil, disgusting character. He did things in the game that we could see that we knew were wrong, and he shouldn't be doing it.
And I still contend y'all should have killed him.
And we were like, it's Eric, it's okay.
Exactly.
And
Aaron did kill him.
I did. I had planned for it. I actually didn't betray Baz Shaloon. I had planned for him to betray me and then have retribution visited upon him.
You were the holiest of the holy. You were
No.
they were both.
That was Greg's.
That was
character.
Greg.
They were both playing very powerful wizard characters. Aaron was playing Temerity.
Yeah.
Eric was playing Baz Shaloon. And too bad Greg's not here. Greg was playing,
Elena.
Elena.
yes, as good as good could get. And
Shouldn't have had anything to do with Baz Shaloon at the very
No.
least.
it was interesting. I know it was a blast. I had a great time playing that adventure.
Well, it's a story now.
Sure, yeah.
But
There were times when Greg was, I thought he played the frustrated moral compass fairly well. I mean, he kind of got to the point where there was nothing he could do about it, so he just kind of let it go.
Yeah,
I would have actually preferred to see more interaction from Greg trying to stop us.
and he did kind of was doing his plotting and things like that, but it wasn't nearly as up to what we were doing because we were plotting not only against or for ourselves, we were plotting against each other and all that other thing.
I think you guys just had too much time on your hands.
Well,
Well, what it boils down to is logically, if you have 25th level characters, their egos and ambitions and wants and all that are going to rise to the top, and they're gonna butt heads. And if if I'm playing this super powerful guy, I shouldn't need any of you. But I do, and I resent that, so I'm going to make it so you do what I want you to do. That you have somebody with a 25 intelligence. That's what's going to happen. They're going to try and outthink everybody, and that's kind of the way I was playing him was he was this hyper ambitious guy, but he had this underlying flaw of he never went out and did what he probably should have done was just break off and do his own thing. But he had this need for companionship, and I kind of played with that. I like to root a lot of my character stuff in like a psychological background, and that's why I come up with backgrounds for my guys that I don't even tell anybody except the game master about, and it's because I want to derive my motivations from those. So I think that when you have a character that's that rich with ambition, and then you have somebody else who's ambitious as well, they're going to butt heads.
And drunk.
Yes.
What Temerity was.
oh yeah,
Yes.
Drunk
Temerity
most
was
of
a
the
drunk.
time.
laying with dragons.
I actually
Demons.
tried to play her as something gullible, too. Pretty gullible. So Eric suggested we form a demiplane? All right, we'll form a demiplane.
That's very convenient for Eric's character.
Yeah, it turns out they each booby trapped their half of the
The other
demiplane
half. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We ended up, and I think it was a contingency spell that if Temerity ever betrayed me, her half of the demiplane would explode, and Temerity had the exact same thing.
Yes.
So when we betrayed each other, the whole thing just went
right.
and killed everyone in it.
Don't play epic, folks.
This is Mike's lesson.
Right. I think we killed like an entire generation of Sahuagin.
And Mike rightfully punished players and player characters alike by trapping most of the characters.
Yes, some of us had the sack to escape.
Or was it a betrayal?
It was
That was a betrayal. That was the ending betrayal of the epic campaign.
Like we got out of Baba Yaga's hut. You guys took off to do the campaign. I got back into Baba Yaga's hut and split. And I didn't even play like the last 2 sessions of the game.
Was that a conscious decision, or you just weren't?
Oh, I've been plotting that for weeks.
Whatever. I think it was just blind luck. Blind luck. That's all that was.
The second we got into Baba Yaga's hut, I knew that the Temerity Bajaloon thing was coming to a head. And,
Actually, we got along again after I killed him. I was satisfied. That was my character's sense of honor. Is if you me over, I had to.
Hey, we don't say the F word.
Yes,
sir.
we do. We talked about that.
but yeah, I'd been plotting that ever since Baba Yaga's hut had become involved.
Eric, why didn't you just
I
have
was
me
playing a
kill
bard.
her?
I could talk anybody into anything.
What?
Why didn't you just have me kill her?
Would you have done it?
Sure. I'd have done whatever you asked me to do. I pretty much did whatever you asked me to do.
That's not. You tell me this now.
I thought it was pretty obvious. I was your stooge. I was your flunky.
Well, there still is hope that Mike's going to resurrect the.
No, there is no hope. There is no hope.
Yes,
And
that was one of the fun things about Bajaloon. He needed like 100 people to willingly sacrifice themselves to make a phylactery, which Eric then built into Jason's sword.
Yes.
And I was the one who procured the 100 willing sacrifices through my.
I thought it was 500 people.
It was like a whole village full of people.
I was the DM of that campaign.
Who says Epic's not lame?
Wait a minute. There
minute.
was actually a point. I believe you're right, Mike. I think the campaign was running itself
It was.
without you being there.
Yes.
All right. now-
Okay, so I know these games exist. There are games that are built upon player conflict.
Yes.
Paranoia?
Paranoia would be one of
I've
them.
never
yes.
played
Vampire.
Paranoia.
haven't.
but
Oh,
I
you'd
know
love Paranoia, dude.
There are. I know it's a style of RPG. So
Yeah, it's called. It's instead of like a group working together, it's
you're together separately.
Yes.
So would that game go over well?
with us.
Yes.
Didn't you guys play it with John?
We
played it.
Paranoia, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
But
That's a different kind of thing.
I think that you going into a game like that, you know
It's too much of a
what-
competition, you think, at that point in time?
Yes, and there's reasons why we don't play, a lot of board games, a lot of card games, a lot of miniature games.
Yeah, he's
as a
sitting to
group.
my left.
Yeah. Fingers started
because-
pointing at Mark.
And it's because of competition. If we played a role playing game that was like that, I think that eventually it would degenerate into I'm doing better than you, gloat fest, things like that.
I think we do that anyway.
Yeah. I was going to say.
So I think it would be.
The added element of competition, I think, would take it from good-natured ribbing to potentially open hostility.
Well, I mean, we could look at our evil campaign we played with Mike. Those characters were pretty much in it for themselves.
They're all evil campaigns.
Yeah.
Don't
All
lie
for
to
the same
yourself.
Which evil campaign?
You talking about
The Brewsters.
Those guys weren't necessarily evil. They were.
Yeah.
They were nuts.
Yeah, I think we slaughtered an entire village.
Oh, well,
That's
yeah.
an evil act.
They were pretty much.
I think that's what I was thinking of earlier about
You
the
can be
500
full light side. You
No,
slaughter
no,
a bunch of
I-
younglings. You are evil. All right. See what I'm saying?
I apologize. I remember now my sandwich shop and brewery.
But you see that-
those characters were evil.
That evil campaign was more cohesive than the epic campaign because they knew if they started betraying each other and doing stuff, then
Yeah.
the law would step in. It was very.
Well, it was like a house of cards. You knew that if we had to stick together for protection, because if one person was out of line and did something when John's character started going on a rampage, we knew that we had to stop that because he's gonna expose us all, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Right.
There is a game that I know, Dan, you would never play, but I keep hearing things about it, and it's all about conflict, and that's the Smallville game.
That hits on so many bad points.
And it's all about your relationships with other people.
I've read about it. It's basically you're role playing a high school social drama.
And it's also
Exactly.
got an entire chapter dedicated to traumatic brain injuries.
Yes.
That's what it should.
But that would
Weekly concussions.
that would be a good example of the because you're in conflict with everybody at the table. I don't know. I mean, I think it would be fun to try.
It goes in line with our New Year's resolutions. That's definitely something we've never done.
Definitely not.
And I mean,
And I think this group would be okay to do something like that. Our Monday group, no. I don't think that we would.
It's your Monday group's too big.
Yeah, there are a couple X factors in the Monday group.
Yeah.
Woodside's there every Monday.
John's gonna be drunk.
Yeah, is
Scott.
John going to be drunk or not?
Right. You have to have a level of maturity to do something like that.
What
Yes.
the hell, dude? Here? I don't know. Are we mature?
A level of maturity.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Maybe I'm
not
not.
necessarily full on maturity.
Okay, I think
It's like a level of thief. You know, just the one.
Just the one.
Dick and fart jokes aside, I think that we're
Oh,
mature
no,
enough to deal with.
Well, okay, we may not necessarily as a group be mature enough to do it to its completion, but we are